I'm described as an acoustician, very difficult thing to say. We're interested in the space between the performer and the listener. All the things that happen in that space, reflections of sound, intelligibility, are our business. Acoustically, before BB90, Bulletin 93 came in, you had little control over how the acoustics worked. We converted a complete primary school into interesting physically acoustic fins, clouds of acoustic treatment on the ceiling. Obviously, it's got to go through another stage when the acoustic starts to cry, and we fill up the rooms with the stuff that they want to fit it in. And here's another shot of a typical acoustic cloud. Now we come to the science. The science in the last 20 years has taken leaps and bounds. Until 20 years ago, all we had was a formula invented by American Wallace Sabine in 1880. Who got a relationship between the volume, the reverberation time of the space, and what finishes and people were in it. And that's what we had, a formula, and that dictated all we did. We looked at existing buildings, we used the formula, and we kind of got it right. And along came, about 20 years ago, acoustic modelling. And you recognise the example. The beauty of this is you can build the model inside a computer. You can give all the surfaces the values that you want to give them. You can build all these interesting diffuse services. You can put the audience in. You can put an orchestra on the stage. You can press a button. And it used to be about a day later. Now it's about 3 minutes. You get, this is the model, you get this, which means absolutely nothing to most people. But to an acoustician, this tells 90% of the story. This is the decay of sound as it decays in the room. And what you're looking for is a fairly straight line. That means the sound is being scattered, it's a nice smooth decay, it's not lumpy, there are no echoes, sudden spikes. So that to me is a very good decay, and that is one of the decays that we will have in the Wales Cedars Auditorium. On the right, you see a similar thing, but that's every sound reflection from every part of the room for the first quarter of a second. So you can see the first reflections, which are red, which is what bounces off the ceiling and floor. Second order is blue, where it goes bounce that way. And the third orders are all the black lines. And each one of those is a single reflection. And there are 50,000 of them in the model. Then we get some numbers. Now this tells us it's got a longish reverberation time. It's going to be good for music. It's going to be nice and balanced for music. Lots of lateral reflections from the side walls, which tell you where all the musicians are. It's going to be a loud room, in other words, you only lose half the energy going from the orchestra to the audience. And finally, it's going to be loud. So when somebody hits a drum or plays a violin note, the room will go off like a Stradivarius. This is very important. And the rest of it is critical. So, moving on. Having got the model, we then take that model and drop it into a piece of software in a studio we have in Brixton. And we have 8 loudspeakers mounted around the walls, 4 on the walls and 4 on the floor, and you can sit in a little cinema in the middle, and we can play you back voices and instruments through the model, using the model as a filter. We call that moralization. So all of our clients and architects and design team, we bring the Brixton, sit them down and say, here's somebody talking, and listen to that, and they say, well, it doesn't sound very good. What can we do? They say, well, I'll just play with it a bit more. And gradually you come to an agreement about how the room should sound as far as the client is concerned. It's a very important operation. And here's the finished product, which you've seen before. The characteristics of a good music space, which this will be, although it is an adaptable space as well, is that it's got a lot of scattering built up into this timber roof, which means the sound flies around a lot in different directions. It has diffusion and absorption around the orchestra wall, which gives the orchestra a good sound to themselves. And it has a range of seating here. And that's even if you roll back, say you've got a 400-piece orchestra and rehearse on the floor. It's a very quiet room, so you can record concerts for CDs and so on. And it also, when you open these slats, as in Bedford schools, we saw earlier, these slats are absorbent behind. Effectively, they replace the people who have left the room. So when the audience leaves, and you want to serve acoustic, you open the flats, you get the audience back. This enables you to get a wide range of performance types, from opera to conference to speech to drama and back up to full orchestra. So there are all those things just by, in this case, pressing a button, because these are automated devices which can be controlled to different levels by agreement. Adaptable spaces. This is where we spend our time a lot these days. Building spaces that we use for many different things. This was the first one we did with Eric. And you can just see the variable acoustic bits. Could be my varifocal classes. Anyway, here they're sharp for an orchestra, so the reverberation note is as long as it can be. When we take the audience out and have a rehearsal, you can see, not very good high resolution picture, but you can see the flaps are open and the room acoustic will be brought down so that the string quartet can practice. So just by changing simple things, you can change the acoustic. And you'll also notice that these rooms, there's not much in there. You'll see a lot of concert halls, particularly in America, which are full of stuff. You know, pointy square pyramids, things sticking from the wall, and lines of this, and I think they do it just to sell bits to put in the room. We have found less and less features in the room still work by listening to the model, and you can see this is an incredibly simple room. We were going to put diffusion in there, but we didn't, because it sounded so good when we opened it. Now again, this is an incredibly simple space. There's virtually nothing in it. There are flat surfaces, lots of glass, lots of plaster, and here we can see a rendering of a view from the back of the seating. And again, we've got these mechanised panels. Now, most people use curtains and banners to change the acoustic. The problem with curtains and banners is most architects don't like them, and they deteriorate over time. You know, a banner looks great on day one, a year later it's kind of sagging a bit, and eventually the banner's gone. So we invented these various other things, which are made from door blocks, and it's just acoustic foam, an arm, and a piece of wood, and it does the same thing. Finally, a few comments about how pupils and teachers use the spaces that we make. To me, the important thing about a building should speak to you. And it should speak to you at the beginning and then should reveal itself as you use it more and more. It should be a layered experience, and it should be an enriching experience. And the kind of buildings we're talking about now do just that. They are efficient, they're attractive, they're well designed, they look amazing, and they grow with the use. And one of the most important things is the ownership of the people who use it. When they walk into that space, they should say, "This is mine." You know, it doesn't belong to somebody else. It's not somebody else's, it's mine. It's the way we feel about the buildings we do. The democratization of learning, I mean, since I went to school a long time ago, it was not democratic. It has become democratic, as we've seen, like people, the speakers talking to the democratization of the learning process and the way the schools are used, to me, is the biggest step forward that we've made in education, apart from the architectural foundation. Using the space, when you've seen the results of people from Wales today, phenomenal level of play. The bassoon is probably the most difficult instrument in the world to play. It's very ancient. The keying system is monstrously complicated, and yet that guy played it like a tune. I thought that was amazing. Teaching is theatre. Well, Andy will probably have a go at this at the end, where we'll be cross-discussing, but clearly the best teaching has a theatrical quality about it. You're in an auditorium, the classroom is an auditorium, you are in charge, you're the actor, the pupils can also act, you can interact, so there's that, designing rooms which do that well, I think is very important.